Okay, this is what we know about the verbal communication in US, in United States, that usually US people say thank you very frequently, and this expression is used as a polite response to different kinds of favors and compliments. For example, thanks for calling, or to someone on the phone, or thank you to a teller in a bank. So the people there say thank you very frequently. Okay. And the next is American English strongly emphasizes directness in verbal interaction. So many expressions exemplify this tendency. For example, don't beat around the bush. So they want the people to talk directly about the point they are talking. Okay, and then let's get down to the business and get to the point, just like that. Yeah, and all indicate impatience with avoiding issues. And this is about non-verbal. Okay, do you want to say something first, Mbak Bunga, or I can finish my?
Sure. You can finish your presentation.
Yeah. Next, and about non-verbal communication in United States, they usually they usually do gesture like waving hand. Waving hand means go away, and then the okay gesture, just like the sign. Yeah, okay. In American culture, is symbol for money. And then facial expression like smiling may refer to affections, convey politeness, and also disguise through feelings. So sometimes smile it means that by smiling they pretend that it's it's okay, but actually it is not. Okay. And then frowning your face may signifies disgust. I think it is similar with here, yeah, frowning your face. And then raising eyebrows can refer to shock or disbelief. And then winking an eye may express there is something secret. Winking an eye, one eye winking an eye. Okay. And then eye contact shows that we pay attention to the speaker. But in other culture, it's considered rude to stare at the people, especially stranger. Okay. And keeping distance and arm's length in social conversation. In Indonesia, we usually keep very close distance, but the people there usually keep their distance an arm's length in social conversation. And also bow or take a bow, bowing. In some culture means showing our respects. Okay, like here we usually bow it to show our respect, but American usually take a bow after performance on the stage, but not in their daily habit. Yeah. Okay, I think this is what I can say about verbal and non-verbal communication. And Mbak Bunga, you can maybe I have some you disagree with my explanation. You can say something, or maybe you can add some some additional information if you think that it is important for us to know. Okay. Okay, Mbak Bunga, time is yours. Can I stop my share screen, or you will see about this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Bu Happy. Wow, what a great, simple and clear presentation. And yes, of course, like 99%, I do really agree with you said about the verbal and non-verbal communication, especially in the United States. Basically, in United States, people, United States is a high context country. America is a high context country. Even when we are go to the supermarket for groceries, people always say like, "How do you do?" For the foreigner, for someone who maybe they never met before, and do you know that the nonverbal communication over there is quite important. Should you have any experience or understanding about the nonverbal communication, you can drop your guess or drop your thoughts on chat column, so we can talk each other here in the classroom. Basically, nonverbal communications consists of the facial expression, hand gestures, eye contact. Bu Happy already said about the eye contact, and the posture, how we stand or sit, tone or voice, high or low or middle. And basically, this is very important than the actual words we say. Oh, this is interesting, right? It helps people decide if they like and trust others, even through the facial expression, through the hand gesture, through the eye contact, through the posture, through the tone of voice. Different cultures use different types of nonverbal communication. But Americans use nonverbal communication, I think much frequent. And the thing that we have to understand is the 7-38-55 rule. Have you ever heard about it?
No.
Everyone here? Maybe?
No.
No.
No, not yet. Okay, I will drop it in the chat. The 7-38-55 rule. Yeah. This is basically the rule that indicates that only 7% of all communication is done through verbal communication. Only 7% of all communication is done through the verbal communication, whereas the nonverbal component of our daily conversation, such as the tonality of our voice, high or low, such as the body language, how we, use our gestures, is make up until 38 and 55 respectively. That's the thing that important about the theory of communication, and this is basically really important. I would also say that nonverbal skills are even more important now than they were before this global pandemic. Why? Maybe someone would like to give an argument or maybe thoughts about it. Why the nonverbal skills are even more important nowadays, much more than before the pandemic, before the COVID-19 era, before the this kind of COVID-19 era. Maybe someone would like to give any comments or ideas about it.
Okay, can I try? Oh, okay, sorry.
Sure.
Maybe because we avoid talking too much to the others, and we use mask. We always use face mask to go everywhere. So we talk talk less nowadays before pandemic.
Okay, get it. Wow, interesting view. Anyone has any view or maybe comments? Okay, the thing is we have two facts. The first fact is nowadays we communicating with a mask on. With a mask on, so that the gestures, the eye contact, is going to be much more important. Let's talk about the mask first. Prior to the pandemic, when we saw someone's face hidden, it may have made us go on the defensive and become suspicious maybe. While wearing a mask in the public is now part of the new normal, subsequently this feeling can still arise. This is why you need your body language to relate and make others around you feel comfortable. And basically, as noted earlier, the nonverbal communication can help you gain a person's trust, confidence, and respect way faster than a verbal communication. That's really important. And we also, this is the second fact, we also communicating virtually through the Google Meets, through the Zoom. So, this will enhance our needs to can grab the attention, can understand what other people really talk about, since basically this is maybe the experience during the pandemic tells me that it's critical for you to present yourself immaculately through strong and maybe influential nonverbal skill in virtual meeting room. No matter it is like a one-to-many communication like in YouTube, or maybe one-to-one communication through Google Meets or Zoom, or maybe one-to-many too in like like a classroom that conducted in a Zoom or maybe Google Meets. And the thing is, in the same way that your image and personal brand would be negatively impacted if you were tracked, maybe pants or sport shoes to an important client meeting in your office. But today, that's people not really care about it, but they care about how you deliver your content, how you deliver your message, your words, through the gestures, through the expression, facial expressions, right? Through the tone, how we can deliver something in a good, and maybe not a good or bad tone, but like for the right kind of tone. And your body language and manners in a virtual meeting are also important for your image. For example, someone who maybe want to express that they really understand about the material or maybe the context that we discuss in class, maybe they usually use their hands to enhance the capability of the deliverable of the material. So people who use that kind of sign looks not only more confident but smarter. That's basically the thing that we have to understand first. And it's rare in today's times for people to tell you, understand what they think of you, your image included. So take the ownership. This is very important one. Now, as we are going through a phase of mandatory mass and Zoom meetings, and also non-verbal communication, this kind of non-verbal things like a facial expression, like a gestures, like a tone, is become an essential part of building your authentic personal brand and boosting the perception of your image and reputation as a student, as a teacher, as maybe a professional. And I would love to hear your stories maybe about how you have adapted to mass and virtual meetings, and if you have anything you did has impacted your image and personal brand positively or negatively. Maybe someone would like to share about it, about the experience in this pandemic era using the virtual meeting room to communicate with each other. Anyone?
Anyone? Maybe you want to share your experience. Okay, Levi.
Yeah.
Yes, Ahmad, you would like to share about your experience? Or I think you have a bad connection.
Yes, I have a connection. Sorry.
Or you want to try?
Nope.
Really left?
Don't know.
Okay, maybe the other. Levi, do you want to say something?
Can.
Okay.
Because this connection. Sorry. Check. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
All
So
right.
try to say something, Levi.
Experience pandemic. All right.
Mhm.
Uh, I think I have experience, but that experience, yeah. Apa ya? I'm busy, go to work, because I'm staff in SD Skorjo, yes, elementary school, yeah, and I I'm get up early in the morning and bingung ya, Mbak. Yeah, and confused. I don't know what to say because I'm KKN. Yeah, KKN. Yeah,
Mhm.
help each other. Yes, like that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Levi, maybe Levi was trying to say that that he
I'm
has
nervous,
some
Mbak.
problems. Okay, some problems in communicating with
Yes.
other staffs, yeah, other staff because he is also the administration staff in what is it, Levi? An elementary school, yeah.
In elementary.
Okay,
Yes,
Ah,
okay,
elementary.
interesting.
so
Right.
so he works in the morning and he has to go to the college in the afternoon. Okay,
Wow,
Levi is very
great.
hardworking, yeah.
That's cool. Great. And yes.
Thank you, Miss Jessica. Yes.
Okay, talking about the nonverbal communication, as we already discussed about the percentage that only 7% of the communication verbally is, conducted and effectively affect other people. And the thing is, now we understand how important is the nonverbal communication, especially nowadays, right? And we already learned about the nonverbal communication from like a facial expression. What else? Hand gestures, eye contact, posture, tone of voice, and I would like to share about how Americans using this. Okay, eye contact. Basically, most Americans make an eye contact during the important communication. This is, like, I do believe this is like a part of the culture. If you do not make an eye contact, people may think that you are lying or something's maybe going wrong. And people who look directly into your eyes are often viewed as a people who really trustworthy, intelligent, and kind. If you come from a culture where people do not look uh, into each other's eyes, this may be very hard for you to do there in United States, because that's like part of the culture of the daily culture. So that's what they really do like every day. And the second one is smiling. Interesting, right? Americans smile a lot. Smile in American is not only about the keramah tamahan like in Indonesia, ramah tamah, smiling, but smile over there is, the things and the tools to be polite and show that everything is okay. So it show a politeness, not just only ramah tamah. And when you meet someone new, they expect you to smile at them. This is like the thing that crucial nowadays, even not only nowadays, but this is like a part of the culture. And posture. If you stand up straight, people tend to give you more respect. And the touch, maybe this is a pretty different to our culture. Most Americans shake hands when they meet, and sometimes, not always, sometimes people even will hug each other if they already know each other. Tapi kalau di sini nggak bisa ya. In Indonesia, that's not part of our culture. So if you feel uncomfortable shaking hands, you do not have shake hands. But most people over there use that kind of the physical touch to show or express the politeness, kesopanan, to express the friendliness. And the thing that's important too, most people in United States have a space, personal space. I do believe this is not only happened in United States, but also in like most country in Europe and maybe Australia and some countries in Asia maybe. But in Indonesia, I don't think this is, conducted in many places. A personal space is an important thing that need to be respected in United States. Means that if you are talking to someone, they probably stand at least a foot away from you. A foot away is satu langkah ya, satu langkah. It's like less than a meter, but it's like a comfortable space, like a comfortable jarak gitu ya, between you and other who you are talking with. And humor in communication. This is also important because one part of the communication that can be very hard when you are adjusting to a new culture is humor. Why? Joking is part of our daily conversation too here in Indonesia or maybe in Gresik, in Jakarta. But the thing is, the joke or the sense of joke of people in different area or maybe different country is maybe different too. Jadi sesuatu hal yang lucu di sini bisa jadi nggak lucu di sana or vice versa. Sesuatu hal yang lucu di sana bisa jadi nggak lucu gitu di sini. So the thing is not only how we deliver the words, but the thing is how we deliver the sense of the joke itself. So yeah, that's maybe the thing that's maybe quite challenging over there in the way that we conducted communication. Many Americans like to tell jokes. Sometimes jokes can be funny and makes everyone laugh. Sometimes jokes can be offensive. So be careful because sometimes it can be offensive. For example, maybe someone will tell a joke based on a race or gender. That's not a good thing. These people jokes are not politically correct, and if someone tells a joke that offends you, you can politely say that you find it offensive. I think this is offensive things, or maybe this is disrespectful, and ask them not to tell you any more joke of that kind. That's important because people comes from a different culture, and maybe the sense of the jokes is different, and that's something that we have to make clear in the communication so you can comfortably discuss or maybe communicate with your colleague, with your friends, and with your professional friends. And the thing that also important in in express the thing in maybe the United States or maybe other country in nonverbal communication is the tone of voice. We have to really understand and aware that tone of voice is important to be set up, to be aware, since sometimes people understand about our feelings, about our respect level by the tone of the voice. Maybe you can find it different. Thank you and thank you. What's the difference between the two? Thanks. Sama-sama terima kasih gitu ya. Exactly sama. Not even I didn't even add any other words, right? Only thank you. Benar-benar nggak ada tambahan kata lain, cuma terima kasih aja. But what's basically the difference? Thank you and thank you. That's what makes nonverbal communication have a significantly important position in the communication, especially nowadays, since in the COVID-19 era, we talk to other people with a lot of restriction, like we have to have a mask on, or maybe we have to do a communication to a virtual room, into the virtual room like a Zoom, or maybe Google Meet, or maybe any kind of other platforms, so that reduce the potency, the probability of the understanding. So that is why we have to enhance our facial expression, our hand gestures, our eye contact, our posture, and our tone of voice to make sure that the other people understand what we are talking about. So yeah, that's what I have in mind about the verbal and non-verbal communication. Should you have any ideas, or should you have any situation, just feel free to let me know, or let Ibu Happy know.
Yeah, right. Maybe okay. Thank you for your explanation, for your clear explanation, Miss Bunga. Okay, now we go to the question and answer session. Yeah. Okay, let's start from I think Latifatul. Latifatul Asrofia, are you here? Yeah. Latifah, you can ask what you want to ask. You maybe do you have any questions, Latifah? Okay, Latifah is not here. Okay, maybe she's still in trouble in finding the connection. Yeah, it's also the problem. Always become the problem in online. Okay, okay, maybe okay, Dita.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Dita. Okay, you can ask Miss Bunga any questions that you want to ask.
Hey,
Wait,
Dita, how are you? Nice to meet you.
How are you, Miss?
I'm good.
What is your question, Dita?
Wait, ma'am, wait.
Masih mikir.
Okay.
Okay, okay. While we're waiting for Dita, next question maybe Erlina. Okay, Dita, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am. Wait,
Okay,
wait.
okay.
Miss Bunga, can I ask you?
Sure. Please, Dita.
What made you able to study abroad?
Where did I study abroad? Where did you study? I went to the New York City. I went to the New York City in Manhattan. If you know Spider-Man, yes, I'm his neighbor. I live in Queens in Elmhurst in New York City. Tetangganya Spider-Man ya, jadi I live in Queens. So yeah, Queens is like one of borough in New York City. In New York City, there are four boroughs: Manhattan. A lot of Hollywood artists is over there. Katy Perry, who knows Katy Perry over here?
Yeah, we know.
I know. You know her, really? He lives in Manhattan. My campus is on Manhattan. And Queens and Bronx and Brooklyn. I do believe that. Yeah.
Captain America.
Captain America, right? Captain America. You know Captain America?
Yes.
You like Marvel?
Yeah, we know from TV.
Oh, you know from TV.
Because I love a movie Marvel.
Oh, you love
Marvel
Marvel,
movie. That's right.
Right.
Okay.
That is the
And
theme of the film.
okay, how did you get the Did you get the scholarship?
Yeah.
Okay. Can
I
you
went there
share
too.
your? Can you tell us? Yeah. Can you tell us about your experience in getting the scholarship so you can go?
Sure. Scholarship. Oh, you want me to share about the tips and tricks about the scholarship?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe this is just a quick presentation about the scholarship, okay? This is the winning study abroad scholarship tips, tricks, and hacks. And this is maybe a session I would like to share about how my experience to get a scholarship there in New York in the United States of America. And yeah, this is me basically. I'm Vice Director of Resident Studies in PPI Dunia and LPDP awardee. Who knows LPDP? Lembaga Pengelola Dana Pendidikan under Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Education. I work in Ministry of Finance as an auditor. And I also Vice Chairman of Event Department of Alumnus. It's like a komunitas alumni diaspora Indonesia di Amerika Serikat. Kalau kita pergi ke luar negeri, itu biasanya kita disebut sebagai diaspora, gitu ya. Kita disebut sebagai Indonesian diaspora. So, first thing first is decide what do you want the most, like the campus, the country, and you have to make a short list of your dreams over here. Because when you have a dream to go to the Europe and go to United States, maybe the requirement or maybe the things that you have to prepare are different in some cases. So first thing first is you have to decide first, what do you want most? And this is basically my reason. Why do I choose America? Why do I choose United States? First thing first is the academic excellence. Through the Times Higher Education World University Ranking last year, 2021, 14 over 20 university in the world with the best rank comes from United States. Jadi dari 20 kampus terbaik di dunia nih diurutin ranking 1 sampai ranking 20, 14-nya itu tuh dari Amerika gitu. That is why I do believe that the quality of education over there is great. And the second one, they are committed to the high-tech and high-touch culture of education. And the things is long-term preparation is a must thing. Ini mayoritas mahasiswa kan ya, jadi nanti insya Allah setelah lulus ya, walaupun ini banyak tadi salut banget Mas Rozi sambil kerja gitu. Ini beneran ya, sambil kerja tadi ya Mas ya?
Just sleepy, ma'am.
Ngajar ya?
Yes.
Wow, great. So you're a teacher too. You're a teacher and student at the same time. Jadi ini ya, jadi murid dan jadi siswa dalam satu waktu yang sama ya. Pagi-pagi jadi guru, sore malam-malam jadi siswa gitu ya. Oh, that is very great. The thing is making a plan to have a study abroad is a long-term goals that need a long-term preparation too. Bagaimana sih sebenarnya kita harus optimalisasi gitu ya our relevant experience atau pengalaman yang relevan itu. You have to be active in organization too. Kamu harus aktif dalam berorganisasi, BEM atau apapun itu bentuknya. Atau kalau nggak ada BEM nih di kampus segala macam, ikut banyak banget platform sekarang online, udah zamannya online gitu ya, borderless. People say this is the era of borderless, so you can join apapun itu kegiatannya online or offline, and try to create a motivation letter that anti-mainstream. And this is basically the thing that 5 important things maybe that you have to highlight on your scholarship, phase in the interview session or maybe in essay letter, or motivational letter steps. I know that not every single of the scholarship have this kind of phase, but this is something that good if you good things if you have already prepared jauh-jauh hari gitu ya. So what I called is here is a long-term preparation. First things first is understanding the requirements for LPDP-SI. What you have to understand first is not every scholarship have same characteristic. Maksudnya gimana nih? Beda karakter tuh gimana nih? Sama kayak punya pacar ya. Kita nyari kenalan sama A, kenalan sama B, karakternya itu beda-beda. Kita mau cari scholarship sama kayak cari pacar nih. Beda-beda juga karakternya. What basically it means with the characteristics. LPDP misalnya, LPDP ini senangnya sama kandidat-kandidat yang dia itu punya social experience, yang punya organizational experience, gitu. Ini LPDP banget. What about other scholarship? AS, misalkan AS itu adalah beasiswanya pemerintah Australia ya. AS ini mungkin dia suka juga nih sama hal-hal yang sifatnya social movement, but not that much. Tapi nggak terlalu banyak kita. Dia lebih suka tentang professional experience. Kayak gitu-gitu. Nah, jadi hal-hal yang seperti itu harus kita pahami dulu nih sebelum kita daftar. Jangan sampai si ceweknya ini senangnya bunga, kita kasihnya coklat gitu kan. Atau mungkin kebalik nih, dia senangnya dia senangnya misalkan warna pink gitu, tapi kita kasih kadonya dia yang mostly warnanya hitam atau apa itu tuh. Itu kayak gitu-gitu sih. Jadi the first thing first is you have to understand the requirements and the characteristic of the scholarship. The second one, you have to build a powerful statement. You can use persuasive phrases and sentences. There is a quote over here. All words are equal, but some words are more equal than others. Gitu ya. Kayak misalkan, I do really like you. Gitu ya. Sama, I'm significantly like you much more than others. Sebenarnya statement pertama dan statement kedua itu sama aja gitu. Tapi pada saat kita deliver the second statement itu rasanya lebih kuat gitu, lebih powerful. Jadi bagaimana sih sebenarnya kita mencari padanan-padanan kata yang kemudian kita nilai lebih powerful secara akademis, secara konteks bahasa gitu. Nah, ini help us to look much more stunning than other candidates. Jadi biar kita kelihatan lebih wah gitu dibandingin kandidat-kandidat yang lainnya gitu. The third one is convincing. How our statement should be sound reasoning and have a solid evidence by stating facts, giving logical reason and using examples. Mungkin kalau misalkan di Indonesia ya, teman-teman biasanya disuruh bikin essay atau paper gitu, yang dibilang sama teacher, what your teacher or maybe your lecturer said about your essay. Please write 100 words, biasanya gitu kan ya. Tulislah 100 kata gitu misalkan, atau dengan menggunakan Times New Roman in 12 size gitu ya, ukuran 12, jenisnya Times New Roman gitu, dikumpulkan maksimal sekian gitu ya. Tapi biasanya nggak dikasih tahu nih sebenarnya academic writing itu seperti apa. Kita nggak pernah dapat. To be honest nih, aku SD, SMP, SMA nggak pernah dapat. Aku dulu kuliah di UGM di Jogja, nggak pernah dapat juga tentang academic writing. But when I went to the United States, academic writing is become something that's important that, itu ternyata tuh punya, struktur gitu, ada struktur. Jadi kalau kita belajar bahasa Indonesia SD, ternyata itu academic writing, teman-teman. Jadi kalimat pertama di paragraf pertama, itu biasanya adalah kalimat utama yang harus disanggah oleh kalimat selanjutnya yang menjadi kalimat penopang. Itu part of academic writing. Lalu kemudian disupport lagi dengan contoh-contoh. Dan itu di setiap paragraf seperti itu ya. Jadi kalimat utama, kalimat penopang, kalimat contoh gitu. Itu satu paragraf. Lalu kemudian paragraf kedua, kalimat utama, kalimat penopang, kasih contoh kayak gitu-gitu. Dan setiap satu paragraf harus hanya punya satu ide. That's part of the academic writing. Kadang kita kalau di Indonesia bodo amat berapa ide dalam satu paragraf, yang penting semua masuk gitu kan ya. that's not a part of the culture of academic writing over there in United States. And I do believe everywhere, everywhere has, the same characteristic. If you want to go to the Australia, so Europe, United Kingdom, I do believe the characteristic are same. Jadi pasti academic writing itu ya kayak gitu ya. Kalau teman-teman pergi ke IDP Australia, itu ada tempat les di Jakarta namanya IDP Australia. Aku pernah les di sana juga. Dan academic writing itu seperti itu. Jadi kayak kita belajar bahasa Indonesia zaman SD gitu ya. Kalimat pertama, kalimat penopang, contoh-contoh. Kalimat pertama, kalimat penopang, contoh-contoh. Ada lebih dari satu ide coret. Biasanya kayak gitu. So itu adalah hal yang membuat kita lebih systematic gitu ya dalam membuat atau menyusun academic writing atau esai akademis gitu lah ya, atau paper gitu kalau biasanya disebutnya ya di Indonesia gitu. Dan gimana sih biar terlihat convincing? Caranya adalah kita pakai solid evidence, kita stating facts gitu. Kayak misalkan gini, mayoritas orang Indonesia ini suka makan pedas, misalnya ya. Beda sama academic writing yang harusnya gini, berdasarkan survei yang pernah dilakukan oleh lembaga A pada tahun 2021, 33% orang Indonesia menyukai makanan dengan level kepedasan di atas 76, misalkan kayak gitu ya. Kayak gitu, itu berbeda loh. Padahal sebenarnya the things between the first one and the second ones itu sama. But here, by stating facts, kita akan lebih convince aja. 4, genuine. Kita harus jujur. Ini kalau misalkan kalimat gitu ya, apa yang disampaikan dari hati akan sampai ke hati juga ya. Apa yang disampaikan dari hati akan sampai ke hati. This is the things that we have to be genuine. Makes easy to believe. The readers find it easier to trust what you have to say. Jadi pada saat pembacanya ini nyampe gitu ya. Karena yang namanya orang baca essay scholarship itu satu hari bukan cuma baca satu doang punya kita. Dia baca banyak gitu ya, dan dia jadi punya sense, dia punya ketajaman. Oh ini tuh ngada-ngada nih, ini berlebihan, ini lebay, ini enggak, ini oke, gitu-gitu tuh itu dia udah bisa classify. So be genuine. And this is the 5 tickets do and don'ts for writing a scholarship essay. And the things is think outside the box. This is important karena kan yang namanya kandidat itu pasti banyak yang sama ya. Jangan sampai kita kayak kandidat-kandidat lain nanti nggak kelihatan gitu. Standingnya kita nggak kelihatan gitu kan. Catch attention with a unique application. And the second one is make it personal. Make the reader connect to your essay. And don't exaggerate, jadi jangan lebay gitu kan, bahasa anak gaul zaman sekarang, jangan lebay gitu. Self-esteem doesn't mean bragging, jadi percaya diri itu penting loh, tapi yang namanya mamer-mamer itu nggak oke. Jadi kita harus cari the equilibrium points ya, titik equilibriumnya gitu, titik tengahnya gitu ya. Jadi kayak kita menunjukkan prestasi kita, tapi don't exaggerate, jangan too much gitu, sehingga kita ada di titik keseimbangan yang baik gitu. And the things ini terakhir juga, don't sell your sad story. Jadi kita bisa loh jadikan sad story di hidup kita ini sebagai kekuatan dalam academic writing or maybe scholarship essay, tapi the thing adalah bukan sad story-nya yang kemudian di highlights, tapi demonstrate your strength through the struggles. Jadi kekuatan kita, saya ini menghadapi challenge ABC, tapi kemudian saya bisa through di ujian tersebut gitu. Saya bisa melewati gitu the obstacles itself gitu. Nah ini adalah hal yang penting. Kenapa? Karena mereka tahu nih si pemberi beasiswa yang namanya sekolah di luar negeri itu pasti nanti ujiannya banyak ya. Pasti challenge-nya banyak. Jadi kalau misalkan orang ini adalah orang yang adaptif, yang mampu untuk got the challenge dan merespon challenge tersebut dengan baik, itu maka dia dinilai lebih agile dan mampu lebih adaptif sehingga nanti bisa menyelesaikan studi dengan jauh lebih baik. So yeah, that's the thing. Maybe because we're talking about the scholarship. And maybe about the verbal and non-verbal communication, did you have any other ideas or maybe thoughts? Just let me know or let Ibu Happy know.
Okay. Let's go back to our main discussion about non-verbal and non-verbal communication. Okay, I think Ziana, are you here, Ziana? Ziana Walida. Oke, masih belum itu Ziana. Oke, Ziana. Nazia, kalau nggak ada Ziana mungkin Nazia aja. Nazia.
Yes, ma'am.
Oke. About verbal and non-verbal ya.
Yes, ma'am.
Oke.
Okay. I want to ask you, Miss Bunga.
Sure.
In your opinion, what attitude should a communicator have for effective communication?
The attitude in communication?
Yes.
Okay, attitude in a communication. This is basically important things that we have to aware of. And attitude basically is a very powerful way to communicate. And it's basically mirroring your thoughts, feeling, and even soul. Remember that how attitude affect communication, the negative effects of a negative attitude affect you and others around you in a similar way. You will find that the communication style is negatively affected, and this increases the potential of miscommunication if you are close-minded and if you are less able to communicate openly. And the thing that may be also important here that we have to maybe understand is your attitude is something that other people can actually see. Your attitude is something that other people, your friends, your colleague can actually see. They can, feel your attitude in your voice, see it in the way you move, and even feel it when they are with you. Walaupun kita ngomongnya sama pacar kita, nggak apa-apa gitu, tapi dia tahu kan kita marah atau ngambek, right? Alright? Bener ya, bener atau bener nih?
Ya, benar.
Alright.
Right. That is why that that kind of actually is a powerful way to communicate. And what I already mentioned before, it's like a mirror into your thoughts and your real feelings. Right? And when you have a positive attitude, there is no limit to what you can achieve in the communication. Karena apa? Karena apa yang kita sampaikan itu pasti akan jauh lebih sampai. Karena apa? Kok jauh lebih sampai? Because other people respect. Karena orang lain itu akan jadi respect pas dengerin kita. Karena orang lain akan lebih menghargai, oh iya gitu, sehingga orang lain akan dengerin. Kalau udah nggak respect duluan mau dengerin, males nggak? Males pasti ya gitu kan. That is why in communication a positive attitude is really important. And the factors that maybe can show you a good attitude, that you have a good attitude or not, itu biasanya bukan dari kalimat-kalimatnya nih, tapi dari tone kita, dari gestures kita, dari mimik kita, the facial expression, through our facial expression, dari ekspresi muka kita gitu kan, gitu. Dan misalkan enggak kok gitu sama enggak kok, that's different, right? Because the tone different and also the gesture different, and ya itulah yang kemudian tadi ya, apa yang kita sampaikan dari hati sampai ke hati juga gitu. That's what's important in the communication. So, and I would like to also give you the, examples of an effective verbal communication skills. There are a couple of skills in a verbal communication. We sometimes call it as a 5 keys in effective verbal communication ways. What is the 5 keys? The first key is the active listening. It's not only about we can actively speaking, but actively listening. Actively listening. Kalau kata Ustadz gitu ya, kita punya 2 telinga tapi punya 1 mulut, means kita harus mendengarkan lebih banyak gitu ya kan. So it's not only about how we can actively speaking, but also actively listening. Bener-bener dengerin gitu lawan ngomong kita nih sebenarnya arahnya kemana sih gitu. Kira-kira what's basically they really want to deliver gitu kan. Lalu yang kedua adalah asking for clarification. Asking for clarification is also important too, since kadang kita nih nggak beneran nangkep loh apa yang kemudian disampaikan oleh lawan bicara kita. Bukan karena kita budek, bukan karena kita nggak perhatian, tapi kadang the level of understanding itu berbeda gitu. Kadang kalau kita ngomong sama profesor tuh agak kayak gimana prof, boleh diulang lagi gitu ya, karena mungkin kayak dia ada dalam dimensi yang udah jauh lebih tinggi gitu kan dibanding kita. Jadi kayak kita tuh butuh kayak boleh pelan-pelan prof gitu. Padahal sebenarnya menurut dia mungkin kayak dia ngomongnya udah normal aja gitu, tapi kok kita nggak ngerti. So the things in effective verbal communication skill yang juga important adalah jangan malu buat asking for clarification. Kayak misalkan gini, sorry prof, apa yang aku tangkap kayaknya ini A ya prof ya gitu. Jadi kasih tahu kalau kita ini ngedengerin dia loh, tapi kita butuh klarifikasi apakah benar nih. Oh benar sih A, tapi bukan A banget, yang aku maksud ini adalah A-1 gitu misalkan. So this is the art of asking for clarification. Dan yang ketiga adalah speaking clearly and concisely. Jadi sebisa mungkin gitu ya, kita ngomongnya enggak berbunga-bunga gitu. Bunga-bunga itu bagus ya, tapi enggak lebay gitu kalau bahasa anak zaman sekarang. Khawatirnya orang nangkapnya bunga-bunganya, tapi nggak nangkap intinya gitu kan, repot ya. Terus nanti ujung-ujungnya adalah misunderstanding. So this is the thing that we have to aware of gitu ya. That we have to speak clearly and concisely, clear and concise. And this is the important things too. Even ini hal yang menarik ya. Ternyata ngomong dengan sense of humor yang baik itu bukan hanya dalam tataran informal, tapi dalam dunia kerja profesional ini juga important banget. Orang-orang yang punya skill komunikasi sangat baik gitu ya, di konsultan Big Four gitu ya, Big Four dunia gitu ya, dia sense of humornya itu oke banget to engage the audience, to engage the other people. So using the humor to engage audience itu important, even in academic class gitu. Aku dulu sering banget notice gitu, profesor-profesorku di US tuh dia sering menyelipkan statement-statement gitu ya, yang kemudian menggelitik gitu. Mungkin nggak benar-benar kayak asking for, maksudnya kayak mendeliver joke sih, tapi kayak dia pakai hal-hal yang menggelitik untuk apa? Untuk memastikan kita ini tetap on gitu di tengah-tengah kelasnya dia. And the last one is recognizing and responding to a non-verbal cues. Jadi kode-kode nih, menangkap kode-kode ini nggak cuma dari pacar gitu ya, tapi juga dari lawan bicara. Recognizing and responding to a non-verbal cues. Jadi kayak misalnya gini, kita ngomong sama teacher kita, lecturer kita gitu, ada apa ya? Mungkin indirectly dia nggak bilang nih, kok kamu nanya kelamaan nih, aku udah capek nih segala macam. Mungkin dia nggak ngomong kayak gitu, dia tetap jawab pertanyaan kita, tapi kayak ada loh kayak non verbally gitu ya, dia ngasih tahu nih dia kayaknya udah males nih, dia kayak udah capek. Nah ini harus kita hargai juga gitu. Nah ini adalah samples of the effective verbal communication skills. Tadi ada 5 gitu ya: active listening, asking for clarification, using humor to engage the audience, speaking clearly and concisely, and also recognizing and responding to non-verbal cues. Ini lagi azan di sini, mungkin aku izin untuk stop dulu. Mungkin kalau yang lain mau menyampaikan, karena waktu azannya beda-beda ya, silakan.
Oke, silakan. Sini sudah. Sudah. Oke, siap-siap habis ini pertanyaan dari Sufa NFK.
Ya, alhamdulillah in my location, the azan sound has already stopped. Would you please continue this session?
Okay. I think the next question is Sufa, I think. Sufa, Ifat Sufa Iro.
Yes.
Hi, Sufa.
Hello. Hello, Miss. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I have question, but it's like about your experiences. My question is, do you get some culture shock when you live in US? And how about what is that? Homesick. Have you ever like feeling like homesick? Thank you very much.
Interesting, basically my experience related to the culture shock.
Yeah.
This
Cultural
is,
shock.
yes, culture shock. Basically, what is culture shock? Have anyone here understand about the culture shock or maybe have an experience? Basically, culture shock can be described as emotional disorientation characteristic by the feelings of shock and anxiety to the new environment, to the new experience, to, to a foreign environment that may be far, far away from our hometown, far, far away from our family and friends. And basically, most people experience a degree of homesickness and distress at the start of their travel, especially if we are taking our degree overseas. It's not only a short-term time, right? Bukan cuma seminggu, 2 minggu kan. Jadi biasanya it's long term. Like at minimum, it's like for a year, setahun gitu. Setauku paling cepat itu 1 tahun gitu ya, beda-beda di setiap negara gitu. Although maybe a majority of people experience the culture shock, basically the degree of the culture shock is different. And this is the things that we it's basically nothing to be afraid of gitu. Jangan jadiin satu hal yang kita takutin gitu ya. In fact, basically experiencing culture shock is a positive thing. Wow, really? Why? Because it gives the opportunity to learn about ourselves better. Culture shock gives us the opportunity to learn about ourselves better. Teach us how to think on your feet and make us more adaptive, more agile, more adaptive and agile. And adaptivity is really important, not only nowadays, but in every era, adaptivity is, an important skills. And basically, it presents us with the opportunity to immerse ourselves in an entire new culture and then emerge as a global citizen. Siapa nih dulu yang sering-sering taruh biasanya di bio Instagram, I'm a global citizen gitu ya. Biasanya orang-orang ini jaksel gitu ya, I'm a global citizen gitu. Nah, experiencing the culture shock will shape your personality significantly by teaching you to trust to your gut, survive during a periods of loneliness and familiarity, and develop a thicker skin. Jadi lebih tangguh gitu kan. And people mostly experience a tremendous personal growth when they are facing a vulnerability. Karena kan yang namanya culture shock ini kan meningkatkan vulnerability kita kan. Jadi ini penting banget. Apa sih sebenarnya yang aku alami gitu, my real experience in culture shock in United States gitu ya. Pertama adalah menurutku, aku pikir orang Indonesia itu sudah sangat ramah tadinya. Tapi kalau kita belanja di Amerika, kita nggak kenal sama kasirnya ya, of course lah ya, orang baru datang juga gitu ke sana, gimana cara kenalnya. Tapi biasanya dia asking nanya ini ya, menyapa kita tuh bukan hanya dengan hi, bukan dengan halo doang gitu. Biasanya kalau kita kan gitu atau hi gitu kan. Kalau di sana tuh biasanya dia nanya how do you do gitu, kayak atau mungkin kayak how life's going gitu. Gimana nih harimu gitu. Walaupun itu sebenarnya pertanyaan-pertanyaan formalitas aja sih. Tapi ternyata itu part of the culture. Jadi pas awal itu tuh aku juga bingung gitu jawabnya. Ini janjian dia salah orang gitu kan. Kok nanyain apa kabar? Ternyata itu part of the culture. Jadi awal-awal kayak coba bilang gitu. Tapi kayak lama-lama ya aku okay, this is part of the culture. Jadi aku kayak ngasih, I'm good. What about you? How life's going? Gitu. Jadi kayak so SKS gitu. Padahal itu sebenarnya formalitas saja. That's part of the culture over there in United States gitu ya, di Amerika gitu. Dan mungkin kayak hal yang penting juga adalah the way communicate, itu juga bisa jadi part of our shock in culture, karena yang namanya kultur itu bukan hanya apa yang kita rasakan dengan tangan, dengan mata gitu, tapi juga komunikasi kita itu juga komunikasi itu part of the culture ya. Communication is basically a major part gitu ya, one of the crucial part of the culture. Dan komunikasi di sana itu meskipun tadi ya bahasa basinya tinggi, tapi kalau kita email-emailan gitu, itu tuh kalau di kita kan kayak biasa gini, email ke dosen, kalau misalkan kita komunikasinya cuma, Ibu mohon maaf part mana yang saya harus perbaiki, itu bisa-bisa kita nggak akan dibalas gitu ya, dibalasnya mungkin tahun depannya lagi gitu kan, ini anak nggak ada unggah-ungguhnya gitu kan, nggak ada bahasa Indonesia unggah-ungguh gitu. Sopan santunnya, tata keramanya gitu kan. Tapi di Amerika Serikat itu part of the culture that we have to understand, itu jangan dilakukan. Karena orang jadi males baca email kita gitu kan. Jadi biasanya kayak aku nanya panjang gitu ya, 3 paragraf ke profesorku, pembukaan tentang kayak thank you for give me a special lecture atau apa segala macam, baru pertanyaannya, baru kemudian kayak terima kasih banyak, semoga kamu memiliki hari yang menyenangkan. Terus dia jawabnya cuma gini, you all good, you can have a good grade. Selesai gitu dong, kayak hey, kurang dari 1 kalimat ini bahkan gitu kan, kalimatnya belum utuh ini, udah nih gini doang nih gitu. Jadi kayak that's part of the culture and experiencing culture shock by coming into a contact with a new language basically will force us to adapt and learn the new language quickly. New language ini bukan cuma tentang bahasa Inggrisnya ya, tapi kayak the language of the language itself gitu, bahasanya bahasa gitu. Jadi kayak cara kita menggunakan kata-kata, pemilihan kata kayak gitu-gitu itu tuh kemudian part of the things yang kemudian terboost gitu ya, yang kemudian terupgrade dengan banyak gitu. Kalau dalam hal shock in languages gitu, itu sih mungkin kayak beberapa hal yang aku alami. Di luar itu ya paling kayak the things is about the food, right? Makanannya pasti beda gitu. Bulan-bulan pertama jadi kurus karena makanannya banyak yang nggak enak gitu kan. Maksudnya banyak yang tidak sesuai gitu dengan lidah Jawa ini gitu. Jadi ya udah gitu kan. Itu paling sih yang the things that important that we have to aware of gitu before we go overseas. Thank you, Fat, for your questions. That's it.
Thank you too.
Okay, thank you, Sufa. Okay, next questions. Farah Habibah, FK.
Yes, sir. Yes, miss. Please wait.
Sir, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, Miss Bunga. I want to ask you about education system there. Is the education system in the United States the same as the education system in Indonesia? And please explain me to how is the education system there?
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. The education system in the United States. Basically, if you are talking about the higher educational system, there are a lot of differences, basically. The things is maybe the very first things is about the grading. Kalau di kita biasanya like 0 to 60 will have a C grade or D grade or E grade, right? Or people who get 60 to 70 in overall grades will get a C or D marks. And people with, points, overall points above 90, maybe or 95 will have an A. But over there in the United States, we didn't have that kind of systems. We do have a distribution or normal distribution shape. If you know about the, let me share about the shape. This is the distribution shape statistics. Yeah, this is just like this one. So, 2% of people with a highest grade will get, the 2% of people in this area, I hope you can see over here, will get an A+. And people over here will get an A, B is the majority, C is over here, D and E. So we have to compete. We have to compete each other with our colleagues in the classroom. Jadi teman di kelas ini kita kejar-kejaran gitu, lari-larian gitu. Karena bisa jadi nilai 90 belum cukup baik, right? Because we're using that kind of the curve to get the grades. Yeah, that's maybe the things that mungkin di UGM dulu beberapa profesorku pakai ya, tapi not many. I do believe maybe like just 1 or 2. Jadi itu mungkin hal yang beda gitu ya. Lalu kemudian kalau misalkan kita bicara terkait dengan kenapa sih why the United States has the best educational system? Ini based on the research ya, bukan opini gitu. Basically because they have an excellent programs in all disciplines they have to offer, and the degree awarded by the U.S. University are outstanding, and students will get an opportunity to learn and work with some of the outstanding researchers in fields. Jadi learn and work. Jadi banyak banget tuh fase-fase diskusi, praktikum, kayak gitu-gitu itu banyak banget gitu ya. Bahkan to be honest, my field is not a science field, it's a social field, but tetap banyak praktikumnya gitu. Jadi laboratorium itu bukan hanya buat mereka yang ambil medicine or maybe MIPA gitu kalau di sini ya namanya. Kalau di sana ya science gitu kan. So yes, that's maybe what makes United States has the best education system. Thank you, Farah.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay, thank you. Eva, do you have any other questions?
Yes, I have, but itu di luar tentang your experience or about education. I just curious about your name. What does your beautiful name mean? Your name is quite catch my attention because your name is like the city where I live.
Gresik, right? Gresik.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, Bu Happy asked the exact same question sebelumnya.
Yeah.
Apakah dari Gresik gitu kan?
Mewakili pertanyaan-pertanyaan itu.
Basically, Gresika is the abbreviations. Jadi singkatan gitu ya, abbreviations of my mother and my father's names. Jadi itu singkatan nama mama sama papaku. Aku kebetulan orang Jogja, so yeah, but I love
Oke.
Gresik too.
Jadi nggak ada hubungannya dengan Gresik dan Bunga karena kita tinggalnya di Kabupaten Gresik, Kecamatan Bunga.
Oh, really?
Kecamatannya Bunga,
Yeah.
Kecamatan Bunga pakai H. Oke, Kabupaten
see.
Gresik. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
It's a
guess
coincidence.
you are from Bunga.
I see. Itu menarik banget loh. Beneran ada ya Kecamatan Bunga gitu ya. Wow.
Kecamatan Bunga, Kabupaten Gresik.
This is like a coincidence basically.
Coincidence.
And yeah, interesting one. Baru tahu sih sebenarnya. menarik.
Okay, maybe
So,
the next
where do you
question.
come from?
I came from Yogyakarta,
Jogja.
Sleman.
Okay, thank you, Miss. So sorry if I'm curious about your name.
Sure, that's great things too. I jadi ngerti ada Kecamatan Bunga
Kecamatan
gitu
Bunga.
kan.
Okay, next question, Rogib. Rogib
Ma'am.
di situ nggak? Oke, Rogib. Rogib, turn on your video biar bisa kelihatan. Kenapa? Saja. Oke, Rogib cuma ada suara saja, oke. Gak apa-apa, oke.
I have a question, ma'am. Why do Americans love compliments when people in some part of the world believe that compliment can be dangerous because they invite the evil eye or bad luck? Thank you.
Compliment usage in sentence.
Yeah.
Basically, it's there are two things: compliment and compliment. That's different. Compliments is attention, kindness, bouquet, sugar, toffee, a polite expression of praise or admiration. Like maybe, thank you very much for your interest in me and for your compliments. I want to compliment you, but I wish you hadn't done this disrespect. Atau mungkin bentuknya apa ya? Just a polite expression of praise of and admiration, basically. So compliment is a positive things. Cuma mungkin yang di sini adalah compliment in a negative. Maybe let me think about the negative things in the compliment. Since in my thoughts, compliment is a positive thing. Since wait a second.
Mungkin gini, Mbak. Kita biasanya kalau dipuji, when someone give us compliment, okay, we say, bukan saya nggak ada apa-apanya, bukan gimana, bukan apa. Okay. But the Americans when the other people give compliment to them, they will say thank you. Okay.
I see.
Okay. So it means that does it mean that that the Americans loves compliment, or is that something else?
Okay, I see. So I get your points, basically. Yes, that's the art of the politeness. In Indonesia, kalau kita dibilang pinter banget sih, terus kita jawabnya oke, itu dibilangnya ini ya, nggak polite gitu kan, tidak sopan gitu kan. And that's basically significantly different in West culture, not only in the United States, but in most United States, Europe, or maybe Australian, in almost all of the West culture. Being, like in habit of giving compliments help us notice and appreciate what goods and what we like in those around us. So people give a compliment to express the politeness. So we have to reply the compliment with the acceptance. So that's part of part of the politeness itself gitu. Jadi kayak misalkan kita dikasih sesuatu tuh kalau kita nolak tuh justru itu tidak menghargai gitu. Itu mungkin filosofi dasarnya gitu ya. Kenapa sih kok di sana kita justru harus menerima komplimen gitu ya. Nah, in Indonesia, people tend to have a different kind of the culture of communication. That is why here, if we are accepting the compliments, sometimes we will drift as a people who sombong, belagu, or maybe tidak punya unggah-ungguh gitu kan. So the things is, should you accept a compliment if you attend a country with a Western culture? Is this the answer is of course 100% yes. Say thank you or maybe thank you. I appreciate your kind words. So, hey, how beautiful you are today. Thank you. I appreciate your kind words. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, maybe if they give us the exact same statement, kita biasanya ngomong, masa sih gitu kan. Atau kayak, gimana ya, biasa aja gitu. Atau hal yang kayak gitu ya. Kalau misalkan kita bilang, makasih banyak, iya emang bagus banget gitu kan. Itu biasanya mulai jadi.
Sombong, jadinya kayak sombong.
Iya. Benar. So yeah, by accepting the compliment, you show the gratitude to other person kind remarks, and do not come off as a vain, boastful, or prideful. So that's the thing that need to be highlighted. If we are receive a compliment, we will show our gratitude, or we will show our humbly thanks to appreciate other people's words. So that's the culture over there. Thank you. Mungkin siapa tadi Rogip ya for the creation.
Yeah, Rogip. Thank you, Rogip. And I think they still have so many questions, but I think the time is not enough for us. Jadi ini kayaknya sudah waktunya untuk diakhiri. Okay, so I'm so sorry that for the other students who still have so many questions for Mbak Bunga ya. So sorry ya guys ya, nggak apa-apa ya. Okay, mungkin. Okay. Thank you also for Mbak Bunga for coming here, for joining our class. Makasih banyak. Okay, makasih banyak untuk waktunya. Okay. Mungkin yang lain kita nyalakan.
Sure, I'm happy to have a good time here with you guys today.
Okay, maybe kita maybe let's take picture first.
Sure.
Okay. Everyone, please turn on your camera. Okay, so we can take picture. Okay. Saya rekamnya selesai.